You are 14 years old. You live in a gray apartment in Baltimore with peeling wallpaper and a radiator that sounds like it's dying every winter. Your father left when you were 6. Not dramatically. Not a fight. He just didn't come home one Tuesday and nobody talked about it after that. Your mother works double shifts at a laundry on Pratt Street. She smells like detergent and exhaustion. She tries. That matters. But trying and being there are different things, and you learn this difference early. The neighborhood teaches you what school doesn't. It teaches you that the loudest person in the room is almost never the most dangerous one. It teaches you that the man who watches from the corner, who never raises his voice, who remembers everything, that man is the one everyone else is actually afraid of. You file this away. You are 12 years old and you are already filing things away. You are not a violent child. This surprises people later. You never fight. Not because you're afraid, because you understand instinctively that fighting is information. Every punch you throw tells someone something about you. Your range, your speed, your temperament, your limits. You give away nothing. You watch. You wait. You learn. At 16, a man named Darius, who runs numbers out of a barbershop on North Avenue, notices you. Not because you did anything remarkable, because you did nothing remarkable while everyone around you was doing something stupid. He offers you $20 to stand outside a door and knock twice if a police cruiser comes down the block. You stand there for 3 hours. No cruiser comes. He pays you anyway. You understand immediately that you weren't hired to knock. You were hired to be tested. You passed. By 19, you are running messages for Darius's organization. Not drugs, not money. Information. Names, addresses, schedules. Who is where and when. You have a memory that functions like a hard drive. You read something once and it's there forever. You hear something once and it's archived. You never write anything down. Written things get found. Memory leaves no evidence. You are paid well, not extravagantly. Well, the distinction matters because extravagant spending is another form of information. You live in the same apartment. You wear the same clothes. You drive a 2003 Honda Civic with 140,000 miles on it. You are invisible by design. The first time Darius asks you to do something beyond information delivery, you are 21. A man named Reeves has been talking to people he shouldn't be talking to. Darius doesn't use the word you expect. He doesn't say kill. He says handle. You understand that the gap between those two words is where your entire future lives. You ask one question, just one. You ask what happens if you say no. Darius looks at you for a long moment. Then he says nothing happens. You can walk out, come back tomorrow, run messages. Nobody will say a word. You sit with that for 10 seconds. Then you say you'll handle it, not because you're afraid of saying no, because you're not afraid of saying yes. You do not romanticize what you do. This is the first thing that separates you from every man in your profession who eventually gets caught. They build a mythology around themselves. They need the work to mean something beyond what it is. They talk, they drink, they confide in people, they leave traces because traces make them feel real. You feel nothing about the work except the technical challenge of it. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. The moment emotion enters, error enters with it. You are not a monster. You simply understand the difference between a job and a feeling, and you never allow the two to meet. Your rules are established before your third assignment. You write them nowhere. They live only in your head. Rule 1, never use the same method twice in a calendar year. Patterns are how investigators build cases. No pattern, no case. Rule 2, establish an alibi that you don't create yourself. You don't manufacture excuses. You build a life that functions as a natural alibi, regular routines, a job, a face that belongs somewhere legitimate every day. Rule 3, never take a contract from someone you haven't verified through at least 2 independent sources. You are not greedy. Greed is the reason most men in your profession die or get arrested. You take fewer contracts and charge more for each one. Rule 4, the client never knows your real name, ever. Under any circumstances, not even after 10 years of working together, especially not after 10 years. Rule 5, when a job is finished, it is finished. You never revisit, you never check news coverage. You never discuss. The job does not exist after it's done. You are 24 when the FBI first hears about you. Not you specifically, A pattern. A series of deaths in 3 cities over 18 months that share no obvious connection. Different methods, different victim profiles, different jurisdictions. But one analyst in the Baltimore field office, a woman named Special Agent Karen Miles, notices something nobody else does. It's not the similarities, it's the absence of similarities. Every professional leaves a signature even when they try not to. The way a room is entered, the timing, the choice of location. What Miles notices is that each scene is clean in a different way, methodically different, deliberately diverse, like someone who understood what investigators look for and engineered the absence of it. She writes a memo. Her supervisor files it under possible. It sits there. You don't know any of this, but it's the beginning. You are 26 when you move out of Baltimore entirely. Not because of pressure, because you decided at 21 that you would never stay anywhere longer than 5 years. Roots are surveillance. Roots are witnesses. Roots are the story someone tells the FBI when they show up with a photograph. You have no roots, you have coordinates. You move to Pittsburgh, then Phoenix, then Minneapolis. You spend between 8 months and 2 years in each city. You learn the geography, the rhythms, the faces. You get a job in each city, not a cover, an actual job. Data entry, warehouse logistics, library cataloging. You show up. You do the work. You eat lunch in the break room and talk about the weather and sports teams. You are the most forgettable person anyone has ever met. This is an achievement you work at harder than anything else. At 28, you take a contract that is different from the others. Not in method, in consequence. The target is a mid-level prosecutor in Phoenix named David Carrasco, who has been building a case against a cartel-connected real estate operation. The client is a man you've worked with twice before. Verified. Clean history. Payment structured correctly. You spend 3 weeks on preparation. This is longer than usual, not because Carrasco is more protected, because something about the contract creates a friction you can't identify. You sit with it. You analyze it from every angle. And then on the morning of day 18, you understand what it is. Carrasco has a daughter, 7 years old. He picks her up from school every Tuesday and Thursday himself. Not a driver. Him, in his own car, in traffic, like a regular person. You have seen this 3 times now during your surveillance, and each time it registers as data and nothing else. That is correct. That is how it's supposed to work. But on day 18, you watch him lift her out of the back seat, and she says something that makes him laugh. Really laugh. The kind of laugh that surprises the person doing it. And you feel the friction again. Stronger now, and you understand. The friction is not about the job. It's about what the job will do to the daughter, not to Carrasco. To her. What she will carry for the rest of her life starting next week if you pull this trigger. You complete the contract. This is important. You complete it. But something has shifted. A layer that you thought was solid has a crack in it now. You don't examine the crack. You tile over it. You move on. But the crack is there. It will matter later. The memo she wrote 6 years ago. She has a wall in her home office. Not her FBI office. Her home office. Covered in case files. 41 deaths across 19 cities in 11 years. Different jurisdictions. Different methods. Different apparent motives. She is the only person in any law enforcement agency in the country who believes they are connected. She calls the pattern the ghost, not officially, in her own notes. She has a profile that she's built over years of analysis. Male, probably between 28 and 38. High IQ. No criminal record. She's certain of this because people with priors leave fingerprints in databases. And this person has never triggered a single match. Probably employed in something requiring routine, structure, and anonymity. Excellent spatial memory, methodical to a degree that suggests either military training or a near pathological need for control. She presents the theory to her supervisor for the 3rd time. He listens. He tells her it's compelling. He tells her the problem is that 41 deaths across 11 years with no forensic connection and no witness is not a case. It's a theory. Bring him a thread, he says. One thread. She goes back to her wall. The thread comes from the unlikeliest place. A parking garage attendant in Minneapolis named Terry, who has a habit of writing down license plates in a little notebook because he once got hit by a car that drove off, and he's been paranoid ever since. Terry noticed a 2009 Ford Focus that parked in his garage for exactly 4 hours on 3 separate occasions over 6 weeks. Each visit was on the same day of the week, same approximate time. Then it stopped appearing. Terry thought nothing of it. But his notebook still exists, and Miles finds it during a canvas of a death that occurred in that neighborhood. The plates were stolen, of course, but they were stolen from a vehicle registered in Phoenix 3 years earlier. Around the time of the Carrasco contract, Miles stares at this for a long time. Then she adds a new pin to her wall. You are 31. You are in Denver now. You have a studio apartment near the Platte River and a job entering inventory data for a medical supply company. You run 6 miles every morning at 5 a.m. You cook your own food. You read. History mostly. Military history, the study of how planes encounter reality and what survives the collision. You have taken 4 contracts in the past 2 years, down from your earlier pace. The reduction is intentional. The more careful you become, the more you charge. The more you charge, the fewer clients can afford you. The fewer clients, the lower your exposure. This is not a career you are expanding. It is a career you are slowly, deliberately compressing towards zero. You have a number in your head. A number of contracts remaining before you stop entirely. You reach this number the way an accountant reaches a retirement target. Methodically, without sentimentality. You are 11 contracts from the end. You are thinking about this more than you used to. The thinking itself is a warning sign that you recognize but don't yet act on. You meet a woman named Claire at a library. She's a graduate student in urban planning. She reads at the same table as you on Tuesday evenings. For 3 weeks, you say nothing to each other. Then one Tuesday, she pushes a book across the table without looking up. It's the book you've been looking at on the return cart for 20 minutes. She just solved your problem without being asked. This interests you more than anything has interested you in years. You go for coffee, then dinner, then more dinners. You are careful in ways she cannot perceive. You give her a name that is real, but not yours. James. You tell her you do data analysis for a logistics company. You build a version of yourself that is warm and present and curious, because those things are actually true. They've just never had an outlet. And you give her that version. It is not a lie exactly. It is a selection. You are choosing which true things to show and which to withhold. This is something you've done your entire life. With Claire, it costs more. The crack from the Carrasco job has been growing. You become aware of this at 3 a.m. on a Wednesday in October, when you wake up from a dream you can't remember but whose residue is the image of a 7-year-old girl in a school parking lot. You lie there in the dark and perform what you think of as an inventory. You check your state, you assess your operational integrity, and you find something you've never found before. Doubt. Not about a specific contract, about the arithmetic. The calculation you've been running since you were 21, that the work is a transaction, that value flows in both directions, that the world contains a category of people whose removal is neutral or net positive. That calculation is showing errors you can't correct. You don't examine this. You seal it, you go back to sleep. But the dream comes back, different each time, same residue. You take a contract in February, a corporate fraud case where a witness needs to disappear before a deposition. Standard parameters. You prepare as always. Surveillance, access points, method selection, exit strategy. You are 9 days into preparation when you stop. Not for any operational reason. The preparation is perfect. The execution would be clean. You stop because you are standing outside the witness's apartment building, watching him walk to a bodega on the corner, and you feel, for the first time in your career, that you cannot do this. Not won't. Cannot. You walk back to your car, you drive to your apartment, you sit at the kitchen table for 4 hours. Then you contact the client through the established protocol and return the advance. No explanation. Contracts returned without explanation are a death sentence in this business. You know this. You are past caring about it more than you care about the thing that just happened at the bodega. You spent 11 years becoming invisible. Different cities, different names, different methods. Never a pattern, never a trace. The FBI had a wall full of pins and a theory and nothing else. But the problem with building a perfect life around absence is that one day you meet someone who makes you want to be present. And presence leaves evidence, not fingerprints, not receipts, something worse. A reason to stop the agent who spent 9 years hunting your shadow walks into your coffee shop one Thursday morning and sits down. No handcuffs, no backup, just hands flat on the table and your real name spoken out loud for the first time in a decade. She tells you she can't arrest you. She just needed to know if her profile was right. You tell her it was, almost. She got one thing wrong. It should have taken less time to be done with it. 20 years less. She closes the file. You call the woman who knows you as James and tell her you want pasta for dinner tonight. You mean it all the way down. Nobody knows your name, but one person knows your face. And that is enough. That is exactly enough. That is, after everything, the whole point. Subscribe for more.